Thank you, and please go ahead.
Hi, thank you. Thank you very much, Zeral. Yes, welcome everybody. My name's Penny Lewis. I'm the Subject Advisor for PE and Sport, and I'm going to be delivering this session with my colleague, Cam Sohal, who's a Product Manager for PE. If you've got any questions, please put them in the Q&A and we will endeavour to answer them. But just bear with us because we probably will answer most of the queries. Hopefully we'll answer most of the queries throughout the presentation. So what are we going to be covering today? Well, we're going to be looking at the key dates and deadlines, so when you need to do what, okay, in order to ensure that the learners who are certificating this summer get their receive their grades on time. We're also going to be looking at what our support is. Okay, what support are we offering teachers? Okay, just some general information about the UK qualifications, the requirements, etc. And then we'll talk about the assessment material that is available to support you in delivering GCSE and A-level PE. And there will be some FAQs towards the end. So I think sort of to put it into context, we know that students this summer will receive grades awarded and determined by teachers. Pupils will only be assessed on what they've been taught. So that's really important. We do understand that not every centre has been able to deliver every part of the qualification. So pupils will only be assessed on what they've been taught. You'll all be very pleased to hear, and I'm sure you all know, that there'll be no algorithms this year. Teachers will be awarding the grades, and that you will be able to draw on a range of evidence, okay, from across the course, and every centre will be different, okay, because some centres have been able to deliver certain aspects, others haven't been able to. So it will be based on the evidence that you have in your individual centre. You'll be able to use some of the questions that have been provided. We provided some additional support. Okay, any mock exams that you have, any coursework that the learners have completed, whether that's sort of like the PEP or aspects of the PEP, or the practical, whether it's GCSE or A-level, okay, and any other work has been part of the course. So anything, whether it's been in class tests, etc. So you will be using a variety of pieces of evidence to award an overall teacher assessed grade. I'll go through some of the dates, but we have the exam boards. All exam boards have provided some guidance for teachers. I'll explain where they are. Okay, and I think everybody should know. Everyone does know by now that you have to upload the tag, the teacher assessed grade, for every learner who is certificating this year by the 18th of June. Okay, that's the final date to upload the grades, and there must be a grade for every single learner in your centre who is certificating this year, if you want them to have their results on the 10th of August or the 12th of August, depends on GCSE and A-level. So the results day, yeah, for A-level, it is the 10th of August. It has been brought forward a couple of weeks, but I think most people are aware of that by now. And the GCSE is 2 days later, not a week later, 2 days later, and that will be awarded, be published on the 12th of August. So the three key dates really: the 18th of June to submit the tag, the 10th of August for the A-level results, and the 12th of August for the GCSE results. So they're the key date, the three main dates, but there are a few other dates that you need to be aware of. Okay, I'm sure you've all seen it, sort of, that has already been uploaded. There is additional assessment material for GCSE and A-level for all subjects, and that was uploaded at the end of March. There is marking exemplification. So what we have done is we have got some sort of like the examiner's reports, where there's some responses for individual questions, and that's all on the website, and that's for GCSE and A-level PE. You will notice we have it has been a requirement for all awarding bodies to ensure that there is some material available for learners to access, which is why some of the material has now not got a padlock. It's publicly available, and there was quite a lot of the support material that was made public on the 19th of April, so last week. There is also a UK general support website called the Professional Development Academy, and there is lots of information about the summer awarding, this summer's awarding on there. Okay, so there is a link to it, so I would definitely save that link, the Professional Development Academy. For GCSE and A-level PE, it doesn't really happen. We don't have private candidates, but if there were any private candidates, the final deadline was a couple of days ago. And then sort of going forward, what are the key deadlines? Well, I'm sure everybody is aware that every centre has to have a quality assurance policy. Okay, some people may have been involved with it, others it might have been completed by the senior team, but every centre has a quality assurance policy, and that needs to be submitted to the awarding body by the 30th of April. Now, I'm sure that's all in hand in your centres, and I hope that everybody has seen it, which gives procedures as to how you're going to carry out quality assurance. And then from the 28th of May to the 18th of June is when you're able to upload the grades for your learners, the teacher assessed grades. So please be aware the system is being developed at the moment. It will not be available until the 26th of May. That's when you will be able to start to upload on Edexcel Online the teacher assessed grades, the grades for your learners. And then, as I've already mentioned, on the 10th of August is A-level results day, and the 12th of August is GCSE results day. I'm sure many of you are aware that JCQ, the Joint Council of Qualifications, is the organisation that manages all the awarding organisation, and they have been producing lots of guidance that is for all awarding organisations that are delivering GCSEs and A-levels. So what have they been producing? Well, on the 26th of March, they produced a document which was about determining grades, okay, which, if you haven't seen it, I would definitely recommend that you had a look at it, because that provides additional support, okay. It's a main guide, okay, that you will need to. It's a main guide that you'll need to follow when you're arriving at grades this summer, and it is really important. I do recommend that you do look at it. There is on the JCQ website, there is an editable centre policy that I'm sure all your centres have been using. There is an assessment record sheet, okay, that you will have to use when you're recording the results of your learners. There is a head of department checklist which will be invaluable, okay, so please do have a look at it, because it goes through step by step what you need to have made sure that you have completed. And there are grade descriptors. There are grade descriptors for GCSE and A-level and for each individual subject. So please do have a look at it. There is also on the website, there is top 10 important things to note, okay, which again will support you when you are going through the selecting the grades for the individual learners. So please, if you haven't looked on the JCQ website, it is really, really important. Okay, so what is the quality assurance deadline process? Well, we've gone through sort of, it was stage one was earlier in the academic year, and that was sort of a completion of the policy. It has to be submitted to the awarding organisation. Stage two is there are virtual centre visits. Okay, so each awarding body will be looking at your centre policy. You have to submit it by the 30th of April, and then there will be, obviously they're not live visits, but it will be virtual, so that every centre is going to be looked at from an awarding organisation. And then there is the 18th of June, the submission. And then in July, there will be quality checks. Okay, each awarding organisation will carry out quality checks on every centre, and we've just had some information today that it is expected that every centre will have to submit a sample of 2 subjects. Okay, it's likely to be English or maths as one of those subjects, and then one other subject. There will have to be a sample to an awarding organisation. So please do be aware and make sure that the evidence that you have, it will be accessible, and you do have the evidence, because there will be sampling of from every centre. So the quality assurance process really is to make sure, is to support centres so that centres are actually following the appropriate processes to be able to underpin, to give accurate grade for learners. So it is all centres are following it, okay, and there are internal and external processes. The internal process, okay, as we've said, every centre needs to have a centre policy, okay. There will be only one policy, okay, needs to be produced for all your subjects. Okay, it must provide a summary of the centre's approach to assessment and quality assuring the centre determining the grades they award to their students. So the policy will be, how are you actually awarding the grades to your learners? What is the process? What process is your centre following? And every centre, the head of centre is required to complete the summary of centre policy form, and it needs to be uploaded. And that, as I say, that's by the 30th of April. So please make sure that you have seen it. I'm sure everybody on this course will have seen their centre policy, but if you haven't, you do need to make sure that you see it, because that will be telling you how you're going to be awarding the grades in your individual centre. So, sort of guidance on grading, okay. I mean, your head of centre needs to ensure that students have had the opportunity to show the full breadth of their knowledge and understanding in each subject, okay, based on what has been taught. So it is really important, and I have been saying it over the last 18 months, where at all possible, please do ensure that your learners, okay, are being taught, okay, a range of content, so that they get a broad, they develop their knowledge and understanding of the subject. When you award the grades, it must represent a holistic, objective judgment based on evidence. I can't express, it is so important that the grading that you award is based on evidence of the student's performance in every subject, GCSE or A-level PE. Okay, you can't make predictions. It is all about evidence. What evidence have you got? And evidence should be used consistently across the class or cohort wherever possible. So if, for example, you gave out a mock to your whole class, okay, then that mock should be used as evidence for everybody that is in the class. Obviously, if someone didn't sit it, they may not be able to use it. But you can't just say, oh, well, these candidates did really well, so I'll use this, and these candidates didn't do so well, so I won't use it. It must be consistently used across a class or a cohort. Okay, so again, that is really, really critical. You can't select one piece of evidence for one learner and one for another. Okay, if you've given something to everyone, it's got to be consistent. The evidence can be of different types and come from across the course of study. Well, of course, in PE, it probably will be of different types. It will be of a practical assessment. It may be of the coursework for the PEP or the PDP. It will be of theory. It might be sort of mocks. It might be end of component test, etc. So there will be a variety of ways of evidence that can be used in order to award an overall grade. And as I say, please make sure that you have looked at the advice that is on, the guidance that is on the qualification pages, and also I've mentioned the Professional Development Academy. There is lots and lots of information that is on there. So please, 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 you will be sent these slides, and they will be you will be able to have the links. But it's really important that you do monitor that. So I'm sure this is part where what you're looking for is arriving at a grade. How are you going to arrive at a grade? Well, I'm sure all of you are doing it at the moment. You're considering what has been taught. What have you covered, okay, across the course for these learners? Okay, so what evidence, start to think about what evidence have you got? Have you done any mocks? Have you done any practical assessment? Has learners completed any of the PEP? Okay, have they completed any of the PDP for A level? So you need to start to collect evidence. It could be classwork, it could be homework, it could be mocks, a variety of things, practicals, etc. And then what you need to do is you need to evaluate the quality of the evidence. Okay, what standard is that evidence? Okay, and remember, you are using the evidence across the whole course or a class or cohort. Okay, and then you need to establish whether the proposed range of evidence is suitable for all learners. Okay, so is it reliable? If they did something sort of at home, is it reliable? Is it appropriate to use? And then you look at all the evidence that you have for all the learners, and then you need to assign a grade looking holistically. I know I've already said that the window for uploading the teacher assessed grade, the tag on Edexcel Online, is between the 26th of May and the 18th of June. So you won't be able to upload a grade before the 26th of May, but you must have uploaded it before the 18th of June. So you probably want to know how are you going to award it? On what evidence? Well, the JCQ have produced some grade descriptors, okay, for every subject, GCSE and A level, and they describe mid-grade performances. The A level grade is based on A, C, and E. Okay, that doesn't mean to say that you can't award a B or a D. Of course you can award a B or a D, but what they do is they give sort of the A, the C, and the E, and the characteristics of performance at those at those grades. They have also included the A and the B grade. Okay, but the grades that you award are across the whole range from A level, from A to E. For GCSE, there's grade descriptors. Okay, and they've been created for 8, 6, 5, 4, and 2. But please remember that you can award a grade from 9 down to 1. Okay, there are characteristics of performance at grade 4, 3 boundary as well. So there are some grade descriptors that are on the website on Ofqual, and they are on Pearson website. So please do have a look at them, because they will help you. But if all grades aren't there, that doesn't mean to say you can't award the grade. It just that if you think your learner is in the middle, then that's where the grade that they will be at. So please do make sure that you do have a look at the grade descriptors, because they will really support you when you're awarding the grade, the overall grade. Okay. We have been asked lots of times from teachers about use of data, okay, about tracking systems, and can you use it, okay? Well, we know that many centres do use data, okay, as tracking systems that provide target grades or predicted grades based on assessment, okay. However, you need to make sure that it is very clear that the grade that you are awarding your learners is derived from actual evidence. It is not a predicted grade, okay. You cannot use, okay, data which says what their predicted grade is. You have to award a grade on evidence, okay, on the evidence that you have, not on any trajectory or target grades. So used appropriately, data on historical students and centre performance can help, okay, with your internal quality assurance process, because you need to, once you've awarded a grade, you need to look historically on how learners have performed over the last few years, excluding last year because that was that didn't have external assessment. So maybe 2018, 2019. So you could use data in that way, okay, from for how learners have performed in previous series, say 2018, 2019. You need to be aware of the distribution of grades awarded to students in previous June series. However, grading judgment should not be driven by this data. Historical grade data should only be considered after grading judgments have been made. So it is really important that you award a grade. Once you've got the grades, then you look at historical data. Don't look at historical data before in order to award an overall grade. You look at the evidence that you have. Okay, so what material have we been producing? Well, I've already said there is question papers, there are examiners report, there are past question papers, past mark schemes, past examiners report that have been available on the website since 2018, because we've had the 2018 series and the 2019 series. Okay, there have been some additional assessment material which includes sorts of sets of questions. So if there's a component 1, there are some questions specifically on component 1. It's not a whole paper, and the reason we've done that is because we are aware that some centres may not have delivered the whole the content, all the content, okay, and may have only been able to deliver certain areas, and therefore we produce some assessment material for specific areas like topic 1 or topic 2, etc. And there's mapping grids on there, so if you do want to use them, then you're more than welcome to use them. They're for GCSE and for A-level. And then there is also on the website now some exemplar responses. I think I mentioned it at the beginning. There are some example responses to some of the questions, okay, that may help you with your marking, okay, for those individual questions. Okay, so additional assessment material. This is the AAMs. Okay, what have we produced? Okay, well, it has been drawn on a variety of past exam questions, okay, and obviously for GCSE PE and A-level PE, it is only for the theory aspect of it, okay. There is no new exemplars for the NEA, but on the website there are examples for component 3, the practical, and there are examples and a lot of support for the PEP for GCSE, and there are some exemplars for the PDP. So it is important. There is quite a lot of material out there, and as I say, we have produced some additional assessment material for the theory side of it. Okay, there's also, I mean, I'm sure everybody has seen it, the past papers, the marked examples. There is sort of quite a lot of information on there, and ones that have been targeted for individual topic areas. We do need to make sure about reasonable adjustments. So if there are learners with special educational needs, then SEND leaders and assessors have previously been advised to continue to process online applications as if examinations were taking place. This will formalise the arrangements for the students' assessment and will ensure consistency in the Equality Act of 2010. So each awarding body will continue to provide their usual support to centres with advice and guidance on how to modify the additional assessment material resources, okay, for use in classroom assessment. So if you have got any learners that would normally have sort of additional support or anything, then you would still need to do that, to apply for that through the normal processes. It's usually through your exams officer, okay, to make sure that nobody is everybody is supported, okay. I mean, learners with visual impairment, okay, they often get their papers blown up and that they're sort of enlarged, I should say, so they can continue to have that. So it's your exams officer that would be able to support you. Just like in every year, learners will be able to appeal their grade. So the grade that they are given, learners will be able to appeal. And so it is so important, I can't express it, is so important that you have the evidence as to how you have arrived at the grade, because if a learner does appeal, then you will need to show the evidence. It is important that sharing information with students about the evidence that is being used as part of the centre's grade determination process is important and should help to avoid issues. So what you need to do is you should ensure that learners understand which pieces of work are used as part of their evidence to then award the grade. You mustn't tell them their grade, okay? You're not allowed to tell them the grade until the grades are published on the 10th or 12th of August, but it is important that you share the information with students about the evidence that is being used to award the grade. Students can appeal the grade. A student who's unhappy with the grade will first ask at the school or the college to check whether an administrative or procedural error has been made. Where a centre does identify an error in the grade submitted to the exam board, it can submit a revised grade and a rationale for the board to consider. If the exam board is satisfied with the rationale, it'll issue a revised grade. Where a centre does not believe an error has been made, a student can ask the centre to appeal to the relevant exam board on their behalf. The centre will submit the student's appeal to the exam board and provide the evidence on which its judgment has been made, which is why it is so important, because if there is an appeal, you will have to show the evidence that you've used to award the grade. And the exam board will then consider whether, in its view, the grade reflects the reflected an appropriate exercise of academic judgment. If the exam board judges that it did not, then the exam board will determine the grade that the evidence would support. Okay, so please, it is really important. Just like every year, candidates are able to appeal their grade. So communications and support, okay, so what has been available, okay, and where is it? As I've already mentioned, that one of the most important things is the Pearson Professional Development Academy, okay. There is lots of information on there about appeals, about grading, quality assurance, unconscious bias, etc. So please, when you get these slides, make sure that you bookmark it. You can also there are downloadable guides, there are videos on there, okay, that you will be able to look at, which will offer you further support. On that website, there is also sign up, okay, because there are regular updates. So make sure that you sign up so that you're the first to know if any training's coming up or any updates or anything. So please do have a look on the Pearson Professional Development Academy website, as well as, of course, the relevant qualification page. So in addition, there is on each qualification page, there is a tab on that is Summer 2021 support page, okay, and in there you've got all the additional assessment material, there's guidance for parents, there's guidance for learners, there's FAQs for GCSE and A level, there's FAQs for component 3 and component 4 GCSE, and there's FAQs for the NEA for A level. The Ofqual website is also really helpful. That does have lots of information, and as I say, I think one of the important things is to sign up to receive regular updates through the Pearson Qualification Bulletin, and I think that the information, well, is coming out quite regularly. As I mentioned, there is we have provided support for students, parents and carers, okay, and on the qualification page there is some material that they can download, which is why some of the material has now been made public so that parents and carers and students can have access. There is a video and a letter from our assessment director, Hayley White, okay, explaining how students' grades will be determined this summer and the support that we're providing to schools and colleges. There is a link to the timeline that students will be able to look at. There's a feedback form so that we can have further information from students and parents and carers, and there is a link to the Ofqual demographics, which explain in a visual way how grades will be awarded this summer. Okay, so if in your centre, please do encourage parents and carers and students to sign up. Well, parents and carers to sign up to the newsletter again for the latest information. So we are trying to make sure that everybody who is part of the process for this academic year, okay, is kept up to date and does understand the processes that are being put in place. So now looking at specific NEA requirements, okay, so this is very specific for GCSE and A-level PE. For this year, okay, I think sort of there are no weightings to the components, okay. So you need to look at all the evidence that you have. You can use, if you haven't done any practical, then you can use just theory evidence to formulate your tag. Now, I would hope, and I know that many centres remember before the first lockdown from September to March, many centres phoned me, contacted me, and said, we've assessed the practical, but we don't have any video evidence. Is that okay? Well, yes, it is, but don't forget that you did assess them. So I would hope that most centres have been able to assess in some practical. I know there are centres around the world that actually that hasn't been possible, but you can use just theory evidence to formulate your tag. But I would hope that most centres had done some practical for GCSE and A-level PE. You need to ensure that your assessment policy for 2021 tags take this into account. So you need to make sure what your centre policy is saying. Okay. We've already mentioned it, but that you should not attempt to predict an outcome or award a mark based on students' potential. It's actually evidence what you have, okay, against the assessment criteria. I think everybody knows you're no longer sending any evidence to a moderator. Okay, you haven't got a moderator for the component 3 and component 4. However, you may be required to send evidence to Pearson as part of their quality assurance. We do know that two qualifications from each centre, you will need to send evidence. So it is really, really important that you have access to all the evidence that you have used, because if Pearson do ask for as part of their quality assurance, you will have to send it off. Also, if a learner does appeal, you will have to provide the evidence. As always, with any live material that you're using, you have to keep it secure in your centre. And by completing it, you need to have a complete internal standardization across all NEA, which you all do. Okay, I know if you've got 2 or 3 groups doing GCSE PE, okay, then you need to make sure that you have internal standardization. If you've done practical in different units, you need to make sure in different activities, you need to make sure that there is internal standardization across all teaching staff, so that you're able to ensure that your marking across the cohort is accurate. Everyone, I think, obviously for the overall teacher assessed grade, you're using the evidence that you have, okay? But please do remember that for the full course for GCSE, we are only requiring a maximum of 2 activities. If you have done the 2 activities and you've assessed your learners in 2 activities, then that's absolutely superb, okay? But if you've only been able to assess in 1, okay, and you're able to have evidence of that you've assessed them, then that would be acceptable. But please remember, for this summer, it is only a maximum of 2 for the full course, okay? And for the full course, it's a maximum of 1. For A-level, component 3 requirements stay the same, okay, where they're required to complete their assessment in 1 of the activities, okay? So the A-level really hasn't changed. We have said if you're unable to complete any practical element for your basket of evidence, then you need to rely on the marks of the theory components. But I really hope that most centres have been able to do some form of practical with their learners for GCSE or for A-level. There was from September to March in that first year. This has been a question that I know many centres have been asking about. Coaches, okay? External evidence from an external coach or instructor can be used to inform teachers' overall tag and as additional evidence to support the teacher's overall holistic judgment. So you can use evidence from an external coach or instructor, but again, what you would have to do is they would have to have seen the assessment criteria, and they would have to be able to justify what level the learner is at. So it is really important, just like in previous years, you were able, a coach was able to sort of provide the evidence for the learners, but it is you that will be submitting the overall grade. So if you do have a coach, then what I would do is liaise with them, okay, make sure that they have the assessment criteria and that they can sort of inform you of the standard of work that the learners are for that individual candidate. And for GCSE, where learners have been unable to complete the PEP, okay, but some centres were able to gather some information prior to the initial lockdown, some performance data, okay. If you have been able to, say, gather that information, then you would be able to possibly mark using strand 1, okay, and you would be able to award a mark using strand 1. If you've done strand 1 and strand 2, or you've done the fitness tests or something, then you will be able to partially mark and see what standard that learner is at. So please, even if someone hasn't completed the whole PEP, okay, but they've completed part of it, you will be able to use that as evidence, and you'll be able to look at the strands within the assessment criteria on the marking grid for the PEP and mark accordingly. Okay, so that's the end of the presentation. Okay, I hope that I provided support to centres. I know Cam will have been answering questions, frantically answering questions on the FAQs. I'm not sure, Cam, if you want to come in and answer any questions that have come in that are regular.
Hi everyone, it's Cam Sohow. I have been answering questions in the background, and quite a lot of them have been answered, and I think you've answered most of them throughout the presentation. There are still a few left, so I'll just carry on, and if you want to carry on answering some, that'd be great.
Yeah, okay. So I'll pick out some questions that have come in, okay, and I'll endeavour to answer them. So someone has asked if our subjects were to be sampled from our centre, what will be required to submit? Okay, that's a really good question. You know, if you would, there will be further guidance that will be coming out, but basically, whatever evidence you have used to award a grade, you will need to have that evidence available that would then be submitted to the appropriate awarding organisation. So that's why I cannot express enough that if you are that whatever you need to have the evidence to justify the grade. So you need to make sure that if you have assessed the learners, okay, in anything, that you have the evidence. We do understand that you may have assessed, as I mentioned before, you may have assessed learners in a practical prior to the initial lockdown, okay, but you must have a record of it, okay, as maybe when you assess them in your record, in your sheet, in your register or something as to the grade. So you don't have to have video evidence of the practical, but you would have to have evidence as to when you did it and how you arrived at the grade. Okay, somebody has asked, do we need to give UMS marks overall or for each component or just one overall grade? Yeah, you're only given one overall grade, one teacher assessed grade, which will be for GCSE from 9 down to 1. So it is, you are looking holistically. You're not looking, I mean, there are no UMS grade marks for the linear qualifications, but it is an overall holistic one grade per learner, both for GCSE and A level, and that actually is for any subject. Can I confirm, if I wanted to select test A for some students but test B for others, do I pick and choose the same test for all students? Yeah, I mean, it is really important that if you have given test A to all the learners, that you use those results for all the learners. You can't just say, well, these 5 candidates performed really well, so I'm going to use that as an evidence. If you give out test A to everybody, okay, and you're going to use that, then you should be using it for everybody who's sat it. Okay, and if you've given out test B to everyone, then you'll be using that test B for everyone. You can't just pick and choose which test people, sort of individuals, it's going to be individuals will use for their evidence. It needs to be sort of everyone. Where can the new PEP marking grid be found? It's not a particularly new marking grid. It's one that has been used for the last couple of years, but it's on the qualification page. We can make sure that that's shared with everybody. Yeah, Susan's asked, how much evidence, how many pieces of evidence must you have? There is no maximum, there is no minimum. What you need to make sure is whatever you have taught the learners, because that was one of the things that came out quite early on, that the learners will be assessed on the material that they have been taught. Now, sort of, I know lots of centres have been able to continue delivering and assessing the qualifications, even though they've been in lockdown, and you've delivered lots of theory maybe, or maybe done sort of for the theoretical aspect of the PEP, so there is no maximum or minimum, but you need to make sure that you're awarding a grade for someone who is at GCSE PE standard. What if pupils sat different tests as they missed the main test due to having COVID struck out of the country? Can those selected then have a different exam? You know, I mean, there may be sort of individual students that weren't able to sit it, and if they weren't able to sit it when they came back, then you would have to put that on your evidence that this learner does not have this because they were off sick when it was completed. I mean, I know many centres, if a candidate is off sick, then when they come back, they then sit the exam. So I mean, you need to make sure that you do have the evidence. if we're using evidence from last year mock exams completed November, do they need to be included as hard evidence in the students' folders, or students took them home so we no longer have them, but we do have their marks? I mean, well, I would certainly, if you haven't got the evidence, then you will have to use the grades in your folder, okay? But I would try, if you have got the mocks, the evidence of the mocks that they had, I would try and get it back from them. If you haven't, then we do understand that before information was given out, maybe people didn't keep it. But I would try and include it as hard evidence, okay, if at all possible, because otherwise, when they if somebody did appeal it, or if Pearson asked to see it as part of the quality assurance, then it's quite difficult, isn't it? Okay, it can't have got 25 out of 50. Okay, but that would be acceptable if you haven't got it. But if you have got them, then I would definitely recommend that you kept them as hard evidence if you have them. In terms of the PEP, you said you can mark 1 or 2 strands if students have not completed their PEP. What if students are at different stages within the same class? Can you mark 2 strands for period 8 and 4 strands? Okay, I mean, again, you need to have a look at the evidence that you have for each of their learners. So if a learner has only completed 2 strands, then you use that. If a learner has completed 4 strands, then you would use that. Okay, but what you can't do is, if they've used 4 strands and only the first 2 are good, you can't say, well, I'll forget strand 3 and 4. It has to be what is there. Okay, grade boundaries for the last 3 years. If you go looking for the grade boundaries for the last 2 or 3 years, if you go onto the website and up in the search engine and click on grade boundaries, there's grade boundaries for every single subject, okay, for all years. Okay, maybe we'll be able to put the link in here. Okay, apologise if it doesn't work, but it should work. We'll make sure that it works when we send out the presentation. Yeah, someone has asked, if you have not completed the whole of the coursework, component 3, you have completed 3 quarters at A2, do you need to submit the exemption form? Okay, you need to provide the as much evidence as you have across the course. I'm not sure about the exemption form. Okay, not sure about that. I'll have a look into it. I don't know. Maybe Cam might have an awareness of that. We'll have a look into that. I'm not sure what the exemption form is. Yeah, okay, Sarah was asked a question, if we completed both component 3 and 4, brilliant. How do we use the marks without having the weighting? Yeah, it is very challenging, but there can't be any weighting because not every centre has been able to assess all aspects of the qualification. So what you need to do is you need to look at the standard that the learner is performing at. So sort of if they're performing at a level 9, okay, it's across the whole qualification. And once you've awarded a grade, that would when you would look at previous grading. Have any considerations already been made for the current year 10 completing GCSE next year, or is it too early? Yeah, Jonathan, at the moment there has been no information. I've certainly not received any information about current year 10 learners. But I think once all this information is given out to centres about learners who are certificating this year, I think there will be lots more information coming out. As soon as I have information, I will let everybody know, but I haven't had anything. So what I would do is make sure that you're delivering aspects of the course that you can deliver, okay, and wait for further guidance. But there's been no information about current year 10 learners. We created a piece of work based on the PEP where the students were given a scenario of a performer who wanted to improve their fitness. They analysed fitness, created a training plan, and were given interim data to evaluate or lack of fitness. Can we mark this using PEP criteria as evidence, as it is substantial classroom assessment? Yeah, I mean, you could use it as part of, maybe as part of the theory, or because there is about fitness programs in the theory. Okay, I mean, you can certainly use it. You need to be very careful, because that if you are using it against the PEP criteria, the PEP criteria is all about the individual learner. But there's no reason, I mean, training plans are all part of the theory, okay, fitness programs are all part of the theory, okay, look at it maybe from that aspect. If we use past paper entitled November 2020, do we use the grade boundaries set for those exams to help achieve the grade? There is further guidance. You know, the November 2020 series was not a traditional series, so I would be very cautious about using those grades. Okay, if anything, you should be using the grades from 2018 and 2019. Are written endorsements from PE teachers an acceptable source of evidence? For example, our campus closed before we got around to assessing sport, but the teacher has taught the students in previous years. If you have assessed the learners, then yes, you would be able to use it. Okay, but you'd have to sort of a written endorsement would be against the assessment criteria. You need to be very careful, because you can't if they've done it on previous years. When was that? Year 9, okay, which was before the GCSE. They started the GCSE. So it does need to be any evidence that you have. The learners need to know when you assess them, okay, and on what evidence that you've awarded what evidence you have. So an endorsement can be from a PE teacher, but it needs to be sort of the learners need to know sort of when they were assessed. Okay, I think the PEP. What I'm trying to do now is have a look for the link to the PEP that I can then share, because a few people have said the link isn't working. So we'll just.
Hi, Penny.
Hi.
Sorry, just to jump in. I've sent the link. I think there's a problem with the link. It keeps it must be a broken link, but it can be found under the GCSE PE subject page. If you go under Teaching and Learning, under Guide, it says you've got the grid there.
Yeah,
and I've just opened it.
You just opened it. What I was going to do is try and put it in the chat so people could have it. Can we do that?
Yeah, so I've done that. I think I don't know, there must be an error with the link itself.
Oh, okay. So people, just everyone that's on the call, we do apologise, because the link is there. It does seem to be a little bit broken, but I think Cam has put it in. So just have a look. Go on to as Cam has said, go onto the qualification page. Look under the teaching and learning materials, and it is there. But I do apologise if the link has been broken. Okay. Any more queries? Okay. Oh, there you go. Oh, Andrew, thanks, Andrew. Andrew has said, just copy the whole link and it works. Thanks, Andrew. Oh yeah, Amy has asked a question about the PE2MS form. What we have done, just so that people are aware, we have created an adapted PE2MS form. You can use it if you want. It is not compulsory this year. Okay, it is not compulsory at all to use the PE2MS form, but we have adapted it for the 2 activities for the full course and 1 activity for the short course. If you want to use it, if you find that it may be helpful when you're recording your marks for any practical, if you've been able to do it, then you can use it, but it is not mandatory. Okay, please make sure people don't go off and say, oh, I've got to use it. It is not mandatory. And that is also under the forms and administration, okay, on the qualification page, and it's PE2MS up to 150 candidates, okay, PE2MS up to 60 candidates, and that was actually uploaded. If you go onto the website, it said it was uploaded on the 14th of December last year. So just in case you think that there should be a new one, just be aware, if you do go on it, if you are thinking of using it, it does have 3 columns, but I think it's a final column that is for the short course. So don't think, oh, well, it's the old one, because actually that's what I did. Thought it was the old one because there were 3 columns, but the final column is for the short course. So it has been uploaded if you want to use it.
And I've also added the guidance on how to use it. I've just put the link in now.
Okay, brilliant. Thanks, Cam. Okay, so it's now 5 to 11. If anyone's got any further queries, then I will happy to answer them. If not, you can always contact me at teachingpandsport@pearson.com. Please, don't hesitate to contact if you've got any further queries. But I hope you found this session helpful.